Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning, ashestorubies family. Good morning, Vicky. It was
Good
a beautiful
morning.
weekend. It's a beautiful day. We're waking up on a Monday.
I just need to point out to our friend Erin, who watches regularly, that
Hi,
the
Aaron.
happy birthday sign has been
The
taken
happy
down
birthday sign was taken down.
a month after John's birthday. So
No.
happy
It was
birthday
taken down for
month.
my birthday, but then
Oh yeah,
reaffixed.
for our son's birthday.
Reaffirmed?
Our son's birthday, who was also born in April.
April the 27th. So yeah, it's been on.
It's now been taken down.
You were like, we should just keep it. It's a really nice banner. It fits up
We
there.
should keep up the happy birthday sign and celebrate with oysters every week
Because
someone was born.
If you were to pick your best feature of your physical appearance, because I notice things when the camera goes on, and I notice things when people take selfies, we do things. What's your best attribute when it comes to physical? Hair, nose, lips, eyes,
What are you thinking?
fingers?
Because this is a terrible conversation.
No,
So
I think it's a
tell me.
great, because we kind
I
of
don't like
started
it.
that way.
Just tell me. I don't like it.
No, I'm not going to tell you what yours is. Like, what? I don't know what you're thinking.
I would prefer that you look at my hair. Would be my preference.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
happy with my hair.
You're
I'm happy with my hair.
Your mane.
I'm happy with my glasses. I'm
Your glasses. That's not a physical.
what?
Is
Why
that
not?
a physical
Well,
characteristic?
as much as hair is.
I'm happy with my 24 karat chain.
What?
You know what? I think for me as a guy, because I think girls have different body image issues. For as a guy, I'm probably the most happy with my calves.
Wow.
It's because I just hurt myself. And then I said, ow, that really hurt. I stabbed myself with a dog cage. And then I showed you.
You were so happy to show me your calf.
But I was flexing my calf. And I heard you say, oh, wow, that's yummy. That's what I heard.
Not what I said.
I don't know if that's what you said. But that's what I heard. I just heard that.
Do you walk through
life? I can
life?
tell that we've had coffee already.
Do you walk around, like you go for, okay, you only walk when you're forced to walk, but like, let's say
if I'm in the mall,
let's say you're walking somewhere, which would be weird. Are you thinking like, I bet they're looking at my calves?
They could be looking at my calves.
Is that what you think?
Nope.
Okay, just checking.
Maybe I have. Maybe if I'm going upstairs, I'm like, I'm pretty sure they're not checking out my butt. I think they might be checking out my calves.
Oh, wow. My goodness. Okay. Right. We are going to...
Hey, good morning, Matt. How are you doing? Welcome to our morning devotional, morning meditation. And we just invite everybody to meditate on a concept of recovery. We read recovery books. We have gone through a codependent book, and now we're going through an Alcoholics Anonymous book. And what we've come to realize is that this is a spiritual program. We've found out that we have a spiritual problem. And all of the parts of recovery are about the spiritual principles and practices. So maybe you don't adhere to being an alcoholic or drug addict. Maybe you have a food issue or codependency issue, but we want to just bring into meditation a spiritual concept. So that's really what we're doing.
And the hope of it being a spiritual problem is that actually I don't have to be my own solution.
Oh, yes.
That's nice.
Yeah, you don't have to work against your problem. You have to invite a spiritual solution with power to solve our problems. So we are going to I believe we're on May 17th. It is my turn to read. I read the odd days and you read the even days. And forgive. So it's ... and forgive. Under very trying conditions, I had again and again to forgive. I've had to forgive again and again to forgive others, also myself. And that's a quote out of a book called As Bill Sees It. Forgiveness of self and forgiveness of others are just two currents in the same river, both hindered or shut off completely by the dam of resentment. Once that dam is lifted, both currents can flow. The steps of AA allow me to see how resentment has built up and subsequently blocked off this flow in my life. The steps provide a way by which my resentments may, by the grace of God, as I understand Him, be lifted. It as a result of this solution that I can find the necessary grace which enables me to forgive myself and others. Amen. So we're talking about forgiveness. We're talking about resentment. We're talking about the ability by God's grace to be rid of that. It's nothing that I can do. And it's talking about forgiveness of self and the forgiveness of others. What's your thoughts? How
Very
do you
important.
do that?
Very important concept.
So we have this concept of needing a spiritual solution. We have a spiritual problem. We need a spiritual solution. There's no power. I'm powerless. So I need power. And I get that from outside of me. I get that from the power of God. And what's blocking me from the sunlight of the Spirit, it looks like maybe an umbrella in the sunlight. You know, when you go to out for a walk and you're wearing an umbrella because you want to be protected from the sunlight. In this case, we need the power of the sunlight, like a solar panel. And so what resentment does is actually shield the sunlight of God to power our solar panel.
So the worst thing is that, especially as I move through life into recovery, things might get better. The worst part was realizing, do you remember we used to drive, we'd go on summer vacation, we'd drive out to Strathroy, we'd drive through Toronto. And I remember one moment where I was just so irritable inside. We're driving through Toronto and I was so irritable inside. And then all of a sudden I was like,
I'm getting out of the car.
Oh, wow.
No, you didn't.
I'm like replaying scenarios in my head from like 5-6 years ago. So I thought by that point, you're sober, you're working your recovery. We've done some, healing stuff. We've done some marriage things. We're trying to get our marriage back together and we're going on this family vacation. And then all of a sudden I start getting super irritable as we're driving through Toronto. And I remember I reacted to you really negatively. And I was like, where did that come from? And then I just became so aware that I was replaying memories from back when you were using in my head. And so as we drove through Toronto, there was like a circumstance that had happened and there were some bad memories like based in Toronto. And I was like replaying those in my head. Mm-hmm. And I just realized like, oh, wow, like my whole body language changed. My like how I felt inside had changed. Like all of a sudden I was like tense and I'm thinking about, this line that had shown up on our Visa bill from some restaurant that I've never been to. And, you're talking about whatever with the kids, or maybe like the kids were being whatever in the back seat and I snap at them and I'm like, oh, wow, where did that come from? And so for me, what I've realized is like, forgiveness doesn't equal reconciliation whatsoever. So for me, like reconciliation, resentment, and forgiveness, like they're very, very, they can be very separate things. But if I'm going to forgive, it doesn't mean I forget at all whatsoever. But the way that I know that I'm still holding on to resentment is like these little cues that pop up, right? And so if we're having an argument and all of a sudden I'm like reacting at a 10, I'm talking about things that happened 5 years ago, that's resentment. That's resentment. Yeah. And that's going to carry me back into the past. And it means that actually we can't move forward in our relationship if I'm constantly being carried back into the past. Currently, today, what can happen is I will have a memory of something that happened. And it doesn't hold the same amount of power over me that it used to.
So you can tell that there's been forgiveness applied.
Well, I can tell that. Yeah. So I can tell that both things have happened. I can tell that I'm no longer carrying the resentment. And I can also tell that I have forgiven you. Like that we have had reconciliation and that those circumstances that were in the past, those have been forgiven. I don't think that everyone who I have forgiven, I have to have a relationship with. there's
No, that's true.
actually like some specific circumstances, especially when we're talking about abuse. I think that victims of abuse, people who have had abuse done to them, that there's an ongoing danger, is that the right word, to having a relationship with some people. So forgiveness doesn't mean that I go, have to go talk to that person or I have to have them in my life.
But the key is the restoration of the relationship with God. Because if I'm holding on to this stuff, then that's what's blocking me from the sunlight of the Spirit. So then how do I do this? And it was funny that we were just talking about this right before we start doing our devotional, is that I had this rumination that I paid somebody for professional services, and it just kind of got canceled with no real explanation, and there was still, like, I paid for it. And so then I was overthinking that a lot, and then I did an inventory. So this is how I would be able to forgive. And so it didn't exonerate what had happened, but it brought me to a place of forgiveness where I was able to write down what the cause was. And I put the cause as incompetency and then just lack of communication. And then I go over to the realization of our inventory sheets that we do in the 12-step process or LifeLab. And I get to go, have I ever been incompetent, or have I ever lacked communication in transactions? And I'm like, I laugh because yes, I have been very incompetent in lots of situations. And it really brought me to a place where I had to offer that up to God and go like, yes, I have this. And then it just slipped away. And so I was able to forgive and be able to move into a place of being able to not confront, but to communicate effectively to the business that was involved in this.
And then to be at peace with people, places, and things in the world around me.
Yeah.
Because I was talking about this with someone else the other day too, that something had happened. They were really, really upset about it. And I was like, it's actually not about that. Like there's always going to be things that happen that I could convince myself that I am very entitled to feel really upset about this. But for me, I can't afford to not have emotional sobriety. I need to maintain emotional sobriety. And so anything that takes away my emotional sobriety, I actually have to let that go. So if you say something to me and it's, condescending, or I feel that a friend has been dismissive or not been, careful of my feelings or whatever, I actually can't afford to hold on to that because I am the only one who can, like me and God together, can maintain my emotional sobriety. You're not responsible for my emotional sobriety because you're going to do stuff, like, especially because I'm, married to you. Just kidding. But people in general are always going to do stuff. Like things are always going to happen. If I'm full of self-pity, if I think everything is being done to me and that I don't deserve this treatment, or how dare that person do this to me? Like if I have this big offense, like, and then I get offended and I get hurt by stuff like all the time, I will not be emotionally sober.
And we live out of our pride and our self-esteem because I need to be seen a certain way. I need you to see me a certain way. And typically a part of myself has been harmed.
Yeah.
And so I really have to be defined by God. I really have to get my identity from God. And then I think there's a big thing about really understanding the character of God. He forgave me first. So then I can forgive others and walk in the freedom of that. And put down the umbrella and let him power my solar panel.
Someone kind of a little side note, maybe we don't have time for, but it was funny. So a friend was telling me how she was looking at buying a new car. Initially, she had this budget in mind, but then the more you start looking, you get a little carried away. And the next thing you know, she's test driving this brand new, fully loaded, limited edition
Lamborghini.
Blah. No, not a Lamborghini, but it's out of her budget, like out of what she wanted to spend. So she put it on hold and just said, like, I'll have to crunch my numbers, blah, blah, blah. And she even said to me, she goes, there's this little voice in my head that says, like, you deserve this. You work really hard. And I said, that is the biggest warning sign ever. anything in you that says you deserve this, like you do not. There is nothing that I deserve. Like I'm not owed anything by the world.
So does that come out of a place of self-pity?
And so, well, it was interesting because I was just like, even like Jesus said to us, like, or God said, I'm going to send my son to die on this cross for you, even though you don't deserve this. Like, and that's what makes us deserving. And so we just laughed so hard because I was like, man, anytime you think like, I deserve this, I deserve to be treated better, I deserve like this vacation, like, no, actually, we don't actually deserve anything. And I think that flips the whole kind of world upside down of like, okay, wait a minute, because then if I don't live out of a place of like, I deserve everything, then I can live out of a place of gratitude because like, oh my goodness, like look at this car that I get to drive. I'm so thankful that, I don't have any debt and that I don't have to be scrambling to find a job right now. And like, look at, and so instead of feeling sorry for myself because I don't get to go on vacation or because I don't, I work really hard, I deserve to go on a vacation. Like, no, actually I don't. And so I'm grateful for more, I think, when I live out of like not this place of I deserve.
It's good.
Which I think helps us get rid of resentment and helps us forgive, right? Because if I'm not holding this big measuring stick of how everybody should treat me and how my life should be, I'll have less resentment. I'll have less unforgiveness.
Yeah. And I think we have to do our work is to stay close to God. And so I have to bring this stuff to God and I have to be aware of it. And so doing the process. So let's leave it on that note of like, where do I have unforgiveness? And have I forgiven myself? And am I bringing all of my problems to God and getting my identity from him? And so as we go today, let's just have God open our eyes to any unforgiveness.
You ask God to show you where you have unforgiveness. Oh, he'll show you. You'll see it in anger. You'll see it in resentment, bitterness, fear. Memories will come back. And then you got to ask him what to do with it.
Yeah. All right. Happy Monday.
That's a heavy Monday
May
note.
you walk through
Is that a heavy Monday
forgiveness. No, I think it's freedom.
Wherever
there's unforgiveness, that means there's a load of freedom coming your way.
Yeah.
So we just release our bondage to God for him to do what we can't do for ourselves. And keep the peace, be of good behavior, and wash your hands. Have a great afternoon.